blessings abundantly. Welcome everybody to the Abundance Universe podcast. Today, I am with my amazing friend, Cory Warfield, also known as Cory Connects in the world of social media and on the internet. Cory is an amazing entrepreneur. He's a podcast host. He is a businessman, and he's a world uplifter. And we'll get into how we met. But before that, I just want to welcome you, Cory, to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm amazing, Bijan. Great to see you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to see you too, man. It's always a pleasure. You're one of those people that whenever I see you in real life, like at an event, we actually met at an NFT event, but whenever I see you out or I see you on social media, you put a smile on my face and you really bring joy. And I think that's just your personality. That's just a lot about who you are. Maybe we can talk about how you became that type of individual and why you choose to be such an uplifting and inspirational person. But really would love to just start by introducing you, who you are and what you do in your own words. And then we can kind of take it from there and talk more about abundance and all the good stuff that we love to talk about here on Abundance Universe. But let's start there, Cory. Where are you from? And what do you do now? And maybe how did you get to where you are from where you were?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm from Evanston, Illinois, on the north side of Chicago. And I grew up there, graduated high school in the mid-90s, went to a pretty good college on a pretty good scholarship for 1 year and hated it. And I had some kind of traumatic things happen to me, and then some things happened in my family. So I dropped out of college, got not one, but two amazing jobs paying the equivalent of a lot of money. One was a software engineer, and rather a software tester for the first Atlas software from Rand McNally. The second was a metrologist, which is the science of weights and measures for a company called Searle Pharmaceutical Research. So I thought I was good, right? College dropout, making great money. I had my own office, 19 years old, and I just lost my mind. I had my own place. I had this whole life in Chicago. But because of some things that were happening in kind of my world and my family, I lost my mind. I thought I was going to be a famous rapper and drug dealer. I kind of went on the run on my own volition. And so I went and kind of did this little West Coast tour, got in a lot of trouble, learned a lot of the rough lessons, ended up on the streets for about a year. And to get out of that situation, I ended up washing dishes at a restaurant. I found myself living in a small town of in Colorado. So that was over 20 years ago. And even at the time I was on the streets, I was always, people would tell me I was making their day better, raising their vibrations. I go get a couple slices of pizza, cut them into a bunch of slices and go feed the other people that were on the streets. Right? Like even growing up, we worked at soup kitchens and we did all the Christmas caroling at the old folks' homes for Christmas. So I think just that kind of being part of the community, helping everyone kind of vibe right, even when the vibe wasn't good, was always kind of ingrained in me. But so I spent the next almost 20 years working in restaurants. And for anyone listening that has not waited tables, it's very interesting. You kind of have a section that becomes your own real estate, at least in the US where we work for tips. You're very dependent on making a great impression because if you don't get tipped, you don't make money. Actually, it could cost you money to have worked. And so you're on stage. You have to anticipate needs. I got to kind of the top of my game in restaurants, got certified as a sommelier, had regular clientele like Michael Jordan, Steve Harvey. I got to wait on Jay-Z, producer DJ Clark Kent, and rap one of his songs to him. And I like super cool stuff until I realized I was a servant in the castle. Right. And it didn't matter if Michael Jordan and Vince Vaughn and these people would request me. The Rolling Stones, Keith Richards came in. I was his waiter, former presidents for it wasn't as cool as I thought it would be, right? Once you're kind of an adult and you're in the thick of things and you're like, yeah, we're in the same room, but we're not eating the same meals. And I just really started to struggle with that. I was getting close to 40, although I was making substantial amounts of money as a waiter in fine dining, right? Where people were spending hundreds of dollars a person on their food. It wasn't fulfilling. And more than that, it was very frustrating because we never knew when we were working. In the restaurants, your schedule changes by the day and the week, and half your shifts are on call shifts. And I started to get this bug. I realized the data existed to know when people would need to work. And furthermore, the data existed to know who actually wanted to work and when. Right. In other words, people with small children wanted to get out earlier. The data existed for that. but it wasn't reflected in how long they were meant to stay. So completely unqualified, about 7 years ago, I decided I was going to start a software company, technology company, to solve that. And so I did it. I read a couple books, watched a couple YouTube videos, found a co-founder, and somehow we bootstrapped a product to market. And so we got users, we got revenue, we got traction, we raised money. And that was a journey. I spent a few years with kind of that first startup, learned probably a lot of what to do and a lot more what not to do. Brought that company to a pretty healthy 8-figure valuation. And then I kind of, I took an exit from that company to kind of pursue helping others kind of avoid the pitfalls that I had made as an entrepreneur. So I co-founded a launch pad in Web3. I was really concerned about sustainability and the energy that was being, siphoned from blockchain projects, Web3 projects. I had built a fairly substantial audience on LinkedIn. And so I was able to use that audience to kind of resonate with more entrepreneurs, funders. I had been mentoring companies at the Founder Institute at that time, and they gave me a couple of awards. Actually, I have them right here, my Mentor and Excellence Awards. And I became a managing director there. They're a global multi-billion-dollar organization that helps especially early stage founders take their ideas to market. So I was an MD there for a while. I'm still their entrepreneur in residence. I still have my Web3 launch pad. We have about 20 portfolio companies. And it's just been fun. I live half my time in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, half my time in Chicago. My bedroom in Chicago, I have 2 guitars on the wall, and I have 2 pieces of art, and you made one of them. So, I'm blessed by your energy, in physically about half the time, and just loving life. You know what I mean? I like to travel, so seeing more and more places in the world, just like you are doing. Still love to help people on LinkedIn. At this point, they've named me as one of their top voices. That's been a really good experience for me. I've been one of the emerging AI influencers on LinkedIn now for about a year, still heavy into the block space and metaverse world. I'm the chief growth officer at Agora World. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pike. We're a freemium, no code, drag and drop metaverse platform. So anyone can go build their own metaverse for free. I've got my little Cory World there. We're going to be dropping. But yeah, man, it's been an interesting journey. I often say I'm not qualified to be here, but I earned my seat at the table. And at this point, I probably know more about social media and building technology companies than a lot of my contemporaries.
Yeah, man. Well, you did the work. You definitely are qualified and deserve to be where you are. And I really appreciate you sharing your story and where you came from and letting us know that there are ups and downs in the world of entrepreneurship and in the game of life. And we all make decisions and have choices that lead us down certain paths. But I'm so grateful that your decisions led us to our paths crossed. And we actually met a year or two ago at a blockchain event, the Metaverse Expo, and we were there doing NFT stuff and making art. And it was really awesome that we met and just had a really genuine conversation. You were promoting your brand and working on some of the things that you do. And I was out there promoting my brand as an artist, making fine art and just trying to use art as a medium to bring people together and create valuable conversations. And that's exactly what happened. And it was that day we said, we're going to definitely do a podcast. We're going to connect. You even gifted me with some baseball cards that you had that I still have, and I'm concepting a really dope art project around right now. Still going to use those and make sure that you get one of the first pieces that get created. But I still just remember the really good energy that we had in an exchange and wanting to give and share, and like your name Connect, it just felt like a strong connection to you, and felt like we were going to be friends for a long time just from that one meeting. I'm sure you probably have that effect on everybody because you are very bright. You have a lot of really electric energy that's just emanating from you. And I think you really resonate with Abundance Universe, and everything that the podcast is. So I'm just grateful, man, that we got a chance to meet and that your life brought you to blockchain and NFTs and going to these events to connect. So let's talk a little bit about some of the decisions that went into, you being an entrepreneur and creating a company that could, I guess, help the restaurant industry. Is that correct for your first company? Could you talk a little bit more about that, and like, how did you build that company and get it to a point where you were able to make a significant exit and pursue something that you were even more passionate about? Because like you found a problem, you created a solution to that problem, but as everybody knows, there's so much that goes into actually making something work, making a good product, getting customers, and then getting to the point where you can sell the company. Could you just kind of briefly run through what that looks like, or what are some of the things that you did, maybe something you did differently than other entrepreneurs that allowed you to get to that position where you could make an exit and continue to pursue other ways of helping and uplifting the world?
Yeah, well, one of the clarifications is my exit wasn't glorious. We didn't sell the company. My investors basically put extra money into to give me the option to leave, and I did that. But just like in any job, right? Once you sense that there is a misalignment or that you're not being appreciated or valued in life, we always have an opportunity to tune into the good or the bad. And what I wasn't going to do is stick around for sticking around's sake. My equity was worth quite a bit of money. And so, at that point, I just decided that I wasn't going to fight for something that I didn't necessarily have my heart in anymore. At that point, I was already more passionate about helping other entrepreneurs. And I've gone to a few other companies since then. The one that I'm with now is probably the one that I'm the most excited by, which is called Uplift. We're a universal basic income company. And my thesis there is, if technology is going to take all our jobs, that's fine as long as it doesn't take our paychecks, right? And so we're looking at the UBI as more of an unconditional income. People ask me what happens if people use the money for alcohol and drugs. I say, I hope they get drunk and high. You know what I mean? Like there's enough to go around, kind of consistent with the concept of the abundance mindset, the abundance that we really and truly all can tap into. But so with my first company, basically, after having been 15 years in the trenches, I knew what the problems were. The existing software sucked and it was expensive. So I put together a list of what made it suck. Let's fix that and let's not charge so much. And that kind of got us some good traction in the market and to some of the national restaurant chains. But I think ultimately it was just tenacity. And you hit it on the head. There was a real problem and we figured out a real simple solution to it. We didn't make the mistake of thinking if you build it, they will come. We did customer interviews along the way. I had people in the industry that had known me for years, so it was easy for me to come to them and have them kind of play with this project. I also initially launched it. I wanted it to be freemium, and it probably should have been. And if so, we probably would have taken out the other $100 million players in the space. At one point, we were competitive with all of them. But my model would have been very different. We should have been free to use, and then there are ways that you can monetize the usage and entice people to spend more money if they want a superior product, integrations, things like that. Ultimately, they just started charging, and people were willing to pay for it. But the scale is different. It's a whole lot different to go to restaurants and say, how you pay X amount for something you don't like. If you try our thing and make it better, it'll cost you a little less. That's a very different conversation than say, hey, stop paying for this thing you don't like. Use this thing you'll love and it's free, right? We'll figure out the logistics down the road. But, again, entrepreneurship is a journey. You learn as you go. But yeah, I think for me, I've just always been the type where I like to be where I feel welcome. And so, when it was my baby and I was the CEO, and even with my first initial funding rounds, it was still very much my initiative and my vision. Interestingly, they call me the chief visionary officer when they replaced me with the CEO that had CEO experience. And that was kind of the beginning of the end of that, that volume of the life of Cory. But it's been amazing. I mean, LinkedIn's provided me with everything that I've needed and then some. And that was ultimately what I kind of decided to go. Between you and I, my company didn't like how much time I was spending on LinkedIn. And I basically told them that I was short-sighted and there was no way I was going to spend less time on LinkedIn. And, years later, I'm probably very glad that I stuck to my guns on that one.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. I mean, first of all, I like what you said is go where you are appreciated and not tolerated. That is a major key for every aspect of life, in romantic relationships, friendships, especially business and work, where we spend most of our time. So anybody out there, find your vibe, find your tribe, own your vibe, attract your tribe, and go where you are appreciated and celebrated, not tolerated. But leading up to LinkedIn, let's talk about LinkedIn. So I first heard about LinkedIn when I was in college. I was playing football at Georgia Institute of Technology. I was a linebacker for Georgia Tech. And we had this program that would help develop athletes outside of the classroom. It's called the Total Person Program. And they basically had different folks come in and talk to us about how to prepare for life after graduation, after school. And that was the first time they really pushed us. They said, you have to be on LinkedIn. You have to make a LinkedIn account. This is like maybe 2010 when LinkedIn first started. It's like 2009, 2010, the very early days. But they really stressed the importance of networking and professional connection and collaboration and holding conversations with people at a professional level, not just at the level we were used to, which was MySpace and Facebook. That's Instagram wasn't even out yet. This was pre-Instagram. YouTube was just getting started. Most people weren't on YouTube. Making videos had a higher barrier to entry back in 2008 as well. Like it wasn't like it is now. The videos on the phone were not capable, so you had to have a camera and editing, and internet was usually dial up, and it was just a lot of vibes. If anybody remembers those days, but they really stressed the importance of using LinkedIn as a tool to network professionally. What made you choose LinkedIn and stick with it as your primary mode of social media communication? Because you're a superstar on LinkedIn now. You have tons of connections. I always see you sharing valuable information and engaging with really high level people. What was it early on that made you see the value in LinkedIn and choose to focus there? And then into today, like what do you continue to focus on LinkedIn on a day in and day out basis?
Yeah, well, to be clear, and I say this humbly, but LinkedIn's made me, millions of dollars in cash and in stock at this point. So I'm incredibly, appreciative and grateful that that is where I decided to play. But the answer is really simple, and I can't tell everyone that LinkedIn is where they should be. It's probably a great place for many people to be. But what got me there is a book called Traction by a man named Gabriel Weinberg. And he started a search engine called DuckDuckGo, which is purely data private. The users, you own your own data, and I love that. I love that company and that premise. But the book Traction was just amazing. And he basically postulated that there's only X amount of traction channels, something like 12, and that what's worked for others in your space, in your industry, in your niche, in your market will not work for you. He said it's a difference between the personas of the leadership, the timing of the market. Once it's worked for somebody, it's not going to work for their lookalikes, right? Coke and Pepsi had to advertise very differently. McDonald's and Burger King had to really find their own way to reach a mass market before they could even be competitors with each other, right? And so it says the only way that you will find out what your attraction channel is to try all of them. It says if you don't try all of them, you will not know what your traction channel is. And if you've tried all of them and you've kind of taken some notes and figured out some of the patterns, it will become evident which one your channel is. And so then it goes on to say, once you've found which of these channels it is it paid marketing, guerrilla marketing, social media being one of them, then you can start to test and really refine and figure out what exactly you need to be doing within that vertical. So for me, I figured out it was social media, and I tried Twitter, I tried Instagram, I tried Facebook. They all wanted me to pay, right? And I couldn't reach the people that I wanted to reach. If I wanted to reach an executive at a restaurant chain on any of those platforms, it was cool. And ultimately, they wanted you to sponsor and promote content, and that didn't feel right. We were still in our first early funding round, so it wasn't hugely feasible. I could have probably thrown a couple $1,000s at a marketing budget, but it would have been on a prayer that there was a return, right? So I didn't want to do that. But so I started engaging on LinkedIn. I created a profile, and I started engaging there. And immediately I figured out how to get in front of every single person I could want to. Not only that, I figured out very quickly how I could get the right people to lean into me. So, bad or good marketing can kill a bad business. I was so effective that I got an audience with a young CEO named Jose Sil, who's the CEO of Burger King. he did so well with them that they gave him a budget to buy 2 more chains. And so they bought Popeye's Chicken and Tim Hortons, a conglomerate called Restaurant Brands International. They own all 3 brands. They are the
Wow.
ownership. And so he's younger than I am, and he's worth like $1 billion at this point. And he wasn't even active on LinkedIn. Well, he wasn't posting, I should say, on LinkedIn, but I figured out how to get on his radar. And I got him to lean into me, and they actually gave me a demo. That would have been about an $8 million a year account for us. Now, they were too savvy. They knew what they needed. We couldn't provide it for them, so we didn't win that deal. But again, this was early on in that journey on LinkedIn and with that company, and to have gotten a potential pitch to the director globally of an organization who was, on my top 3 list for sure, was incredibly powerful. So, from there, I just realized I needed to just double down, triple down. I learned the algorithm better than anyone. The co-founder of LinkedIn was one of the guests on my podcast, right? Like even people like them reach out and they're like, how are you doing it? Right. We have these fun chats around like the algorithm and, the psychology of the platform, the different changes that it's made. So, at this point, 500,000 followers. I'm a category top voice in 6 categories on LinkedIn. People come to me routinely to learn how to use the platform and monetize it. And it's just one of those things, to be honest, it just clicked, right? It worked. And the more that I went down the rabbit hole, the more that it worked. And then teaching others to do the same as a coach now for the last 2 years has been pretty transformative, I'd say, for my clients and for myself.
I love it. I got to definitely tap in with you. Well, let's get into the LinkedIn strategy for a second. What can you share with us and our listeners about how they can monetize on LinkedIn and grow their brand? What is maybe a good breakdown of like a cold message that you could send somebody that if you want to get their attention? I mean, you're able to connect with 500,000 people. How do you introduce yourself to a top level CEO that could become a potential business partner or investor, or maybe even a VC or an investor for somebody who is a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs and have startups or are artists wanting to maybe connect with collectors or art gallerists. What do you think is essential when reaching out to someone on LinkedIn to build a genuine relationship that could translate into a business relationship? What are some good tips?
I hate to say that the honest answer is nothing. There's nothing that one could or should do to reach out to any of those personas with any degree of confidence that it's going to have any efficacy whatsoever, right? These people are pitched by hundreds or thousands of people a week. Everybody's trying to sell them something. Their time is in such high demand, right? So reaching out to them with any message is not going to land well. And half of these people have gatekeepers, they have executive assistants. And so someone like Jose, I certainly didn't reach out to him. I used my strategy on him that I do for everybody. I want those people to reach out to me. Because if you can have an investor, you can have a CEO, you can have someone like that reach out to you, it puts all of the leverage on your side of the table, right?
Balls in your court. So how do you do that? How do you get somebody like that to reach out to you?
Really easily. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to have a differentiated headline. When you engage or do anything on LinkedIn, people will see the beginning of your headline. So if it says serial entrepreneur, you lost them. If it says head of business development at, you lost them. If it says lifelong learner and spreader of good vibes, you lost them, right? These are too ambiguous. They don't mean anything. People are trying to be too clever and cute. People aren't going to take the time to go, well, what does he mean by the fact that he helps professionals? No, right? So you need a headline that jumps off the screen. I changed my headline 2 years ago, and it was so good I had to change it because people started knocking it off. But I changed my headline to say, I create LinkedIn influencers. Now, when people see that headline, it jumps off the screen at them. It's about what I do, what Cory does. I create LinkedIn influencers, but it rubs them the right way if they're anyone that has aspiration, ambition, right? What could that do for me?
That's again, I'm interested. I'm intrigued.
Well, here's what happened. I changed my headline to say I create LinkedIn influencers. I posted, I went to sleep, and I had 2 people in my inbox when I woke up that said, how does it work? Right? They both let me pitch in on my coaching. One of them hired me. So that post within 12 hours had made me thousands of dollars. That's the strategy. right? That's the move. So once you have a good headline, there's two things and two things only that you need to do on LinkedIn. The first is stop talking at your audience. Nobody cares, right? Everyone on LinkedIn is there to sell something, whether it's themselves as a job provider, an employee, or they're selling a course, selling a piece of art, selling an ideology, but everyone is there to sell something, which is not the case on any other social media channel. So when people show up and say, hey, let me tell you about this conference I'm going to, nobody cares. Of the 900 million people, the chances that a single other person that goes to that conference, unless you tag it and they're looking, is slim to none, right? If people say, hey, let me tell you about my morning routine, nobody cares unless you're Tony Robbins or Mark Cuban, right? And people went to sleep wanting to be you and woke up wanting to be you. And then that person says, hey, here's a way you can be more like me. But average people, and I use the word average even loosely, but no one cares. Even me, I have a big audience, and no one cares if what time I wake up or what I have for breakfast. But I see so many people posting this as though they're the superstar. So I tell people, turn off the Me TV, right? Even though I do my own videos of me talking about all the breaking AI news, and the biggest AI companies in the world reach out to me and say, hey, Cory, we'd like to hire you to talk about us, or we want you to join our advisory board, we'll give you some equity or whatever. Even though I do those, it's not about me. If I showed up and I said, hey, I'm Cory and this, that, and the third, nobody cares. I show up and I say, thank you for your time. I'd like to tell you a few things that if you don't know about could really change your life. That's intriguing. It's a conversation, right? So with a good headline that grabs attention, putting yourself out there in the right places is all that it takes. How did I get Jose Sell to pay attention to me? Well, at that time, my headline said, waiter turned entrepreneur, and then something around software that helped make restaurants more profitable. Okay, he runs a multi-billion-dollar restaurant chain. This guy's saying that he, first of all, gets it, right? Been there, done that. I was a waiter turned entrepreneur. Now he's listening. Now I say I can make your restaurant chain more profitable, right? And so then what I did, I saw he was never posting. But I went and I looked at his all activity, and I saw he was posting, or he was engaging with his directors and things like that, and his executive team who were posting. So now it becomes really easy. And this guy Jose says, congratulations, Sandy, you're doing a great job. And this guy Cory comes in and says, Sandy, I'm glad to see someone like you getting promoted. You deserve it. All of a sudden, this guy Jose is saying, wait, does Cory know Sandy? Right? Again, now he sees his headline, waiter turned entrepreneur. Okay, let me hear what this guy has to say. So it really is a byproduct of just having a strategy and executing on it, but being very cognizant of the psychology on the platform. Why are people there? What do they want to see? I often say giving people a 10-second mental vacation on LinkedIn is value add. If I can make you laugh, right? LinkedIn's a stressful place to be. If I can give you a quick chuckle and keep it moving, people love that. Right, so you just figure out ways to become endearing to the potential 900 and some million users on LinkedIn, and then from there it just starts to flow.
I like that. And then you got to stay in the flow. So as you continue to flow with LinkedIn, what are some things that you see now that are maybe some trends? You mentioned the algorithm. Do you see algorithms changing? Do you see AI and new technologies impacting LinkedIn at all? Thoughts on like LinkedIn learning in the future of how that's going to affect the product and the platform. What do you think is like the state of LinkedIn right now, and where is it going, and how can people prepare to maximize their success for the future of LinkedIn?
I'll give you some alpha, but I'll make the kind of condition that this is the middle of July 2023. So depending on when people listen to this may or may not be as amazing intel, but if you're listening to this and it's around the middle of July 2023, this is something worth noting. Microsoft put $11 billion into OpenAI for a 49% stake. So Microsoft is effectively part and parcel with OpenAI, who's the maker of ChatGPT. That being said, Microsoft has their own search engine called Bing. I can talk about how to rate really high on Bing and Google using LinkedIn, but ChatGPT just discontinued Bing as an available browsing function. This is a big deal when a company that owns both of them, Microsoft bought LinkedIn for $36 billion. LinkedIn then bought a company called Lynda for hundreds of millions of dollars that became LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning has never made them any money, and they haven't figured that model out, or I should say they hadn't figured that model out. And so what I have it under authority is that LinkedIn is creating their own large language model. So they're creating their own AI. And they don't want it trained on data from Google. They don't want it trained on data even from Bing, because a lot of that can be inaccurate. It can cause hallucinations. There's a lot of malicious data out there, and there's no way to parse through it all. So LinkedIn wants their own AI that is basically trained and created by professionals for professionals. So one of the things they've recently done is started collaborative articles. People that collaborate with these collaborative articles are training the LinkedIn AI. It's also a really good way to get the right visibility in the right circles. So if you think about your content right now, every time you post on LinkedIn has the potential to help inform the AI that they are building from the ground up internally. You start to understand a lot of the potential and the power. Someone like me that has a hashtag, tech for good, that is all about connecting people and telling them about brand new free softwares that they can use. Their AI moving forward, when people want to learn about the different AIs they can use for resume or for interviewing or for upskilling, not only will my contributions and my name come up, but I will literally have been one of the people that helped create that experience for a professional to use AI in the world. And it's not just me, but this is the state of where it's going. It's why they don't even integrate with ChatGPT on LinkedIn. They haven't made their API available. So you can't even look at a person's LinkedIn content on ChatGPT right now. LinkedIn's being very, very guarded. But I'll take this in a kind of weirder way for people listening right now. And this is some more alpha. There's now AIs, including Code Interpreter, which is part of the GPT Pro right now, and what's called GPT Engineer, which is a free open source product on GitHub. People can now make their own software and apps doing anything that they want virtually for free. I mean, when I say virtually, it's more of just a labor of love and sweat equity. I have a few products that I'm building right now, and we fully anticipate selling them to a company that Andrew Gadzecki started called Acquire.com. They buy early stage tech companies that have product and early traction for 6 and 7 figures. And so we're looking at how do we sell at least 1 to 2 companies every 3 months for anywhere from $500,000 to a couple $1 million just by using this available technology. So although I have technologists and full stack developers and engineers and people with PhDs in computer science, they're very they're very smart, but this AI, from what I've seen, is about as smart and incredibly more productive. And for an entrepreneur right now that figures out some of the different things that are available that people haven't quite all figured out yet, there's nothing but opportunity.
Can you share any of those things? Because I have an idea for a software that I want to make, but I feel like I don't know where the resources are that I don't have to build the software. I've heard about things like Bubble.io and have tried to play around with it, but I feel like the information or the tools or the AI that I need is there, but I don't necessarily know how to connect it. So as much as you could share, let us know, because I want to create something for We Uplift the World, which is my nonprofit education organization where we teach young artists how to be professionals and make money with their talent. But I know that this is a thing that AI can really help, is how to help creative entrepreneurs, how to help creative people with skills make money with those skills and find the people that need that talent for their businesses or what have you. Maybe you could give us a little mock crash course on how we might be able to create something like that, or where I could go spend my sweat equity to at least get on the right track.
Yeah. So the first thing, and I have no problem with them. So I don't mean this to sound disheartening, But Bubble is a very challenging tool. So it is a no code, low code tool. But if you don't have a frame of reference in development, and if you don't really have a mentor to show you how to implement Bubble, it's very difficult. That's not to say it can't build good tools. And if someone on here is thinking about learning Bubble, if you can learn it, learn it. It's not bad. It might not be relevant for very long, but many things won't, right? So don't let that necessarily deter you. But I love the AI ways of building software right now much better because it's not even no code. It just does the code. And the way that people, right? So hugely
Automated.
different. And so if you were to, the best way that someone can learn is to watch some YouTube videos on how to actually use GPT Engineer. And you will need to create an environment. You will need to run and execute a lot of commands.
You said GPT Engineer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's everything. I mean, you tell it what software you want and it builds it for you and it tests it. And the beautiful thing about AI right now is whatever you need to know, you can just ask it. In other words, you train AI as though it's your assistant or your employee, and then you have it do things that you need it to do. So if you tell it all about the software and ask it to build it, it'll build it. And then if you say, now what do I do with this? It'll tell you, right? Now, do run.x, and like, it's incredible. But so the new version of ChatGPT is called Code Interpreter. It does a lot of things. You can upload any file and communicate it with it, like data scientists or data visualization. But it is also incredible at coding, particularly in Python. And so you can go and say, here's my idea for an app. Here's the 20 things I wanted to do. Here's 3 ways it's going to help uplift humanity. And here's the 2 ways that we're thinking about generating revenue from it. Tell me what I'm not thinking about. It'll say, well, have you thought about data compliance? Have you thought about this and this thing? I'm saying, okay, not really. If I were to prioritize that, what would you recommend that I prioritize? So in other words, it gives you the whole roadmap, right? You go back and forth, and finally it says, here's all the things to consider to build this software. Well, now you're in Code Interpreter, right? So you say, that's amazing. Please write a program in Python and put it in a zipped folder and deliver it to me so that I can open it and use it. And it'll just do it. You start seeing it write code after code after code after code. And the next thing you know, you have a file you can download, you open it up, and it'll do what you want. And if not, you go back to the AI and you say, okay, I tried to open it and it's not working. Please tell me why. Or, am I missing a step? Please give me a detailed list of exactly what I need to do to get this to work on my desktop or on my mobile phone. So it's really a byproduct of just putting in the time to play with them right now. They've made it as easy as possible. None of these have a user manual, right? In other words, these are all intended to be so easy that you can just figure it out. And the growth hack on them is there are people on YouTube that are dying for more subscribers and more views, and they're making videos on how to use this like never before. So the only thing I recommend for people, if you're going to go into YouTube and try to learn something like AI, just make sure that it's a video that's very, very recent because it changes all the time. Make sure it's a video that has substantial views and engagement on it. In other words, you don't want to accidentally learn from someone that's known to be giving misinformation or be ignorant or something like that. But other than that, I mean, there's nothing. And I'll put it this way. I've become one of the top 10 AI influencers on LinkedIn globally. I learned almost everything I know only by watching YouTube videos and playing with the AI software. That's it.
Wow. Well, we got to get busy. Do you have any YouTube influencers or teachers that you recommend out the gate that are quality, verified, and vetted that we can learn from? Because this is something I want to start working on right away.
Yeah. So there's a guy I really like named AI Andy. Just AIANDY. I think his delivery methodology is good. The other one that I like is Oh, his name's escaping me. I'll tell you who I love on Twitter though. His name's Barcy, Barsee. His handle is Hey Barcy, HeyBarsee. I'm not a big Twitter guy, but I go to Twitter just to look at Barcy's tweets. I probably learned as much about AI just from watching Barcy on Twitter than I have from anybody else. And yeah, I feel like I want to go to YouTube real quick and just see who this other guy that I like is, so that I can tell your audience, because there's AI Andy.
Yeah, let's get AI Andy. We got Barcy on Twitter. Tell Barcy to get on YouTube too. We want to see you on YouTube, Barcy. I'm actually wanting to do a lot more YouTube. I feel like YouTube is like the most evergreen platform that's going to be around as long as the internet exists. And it's definitely one of the places that I've gotten the most valuable, applicable education in my entire life, throughout my life. The most applicable and valuable stuff. And I went to school twice. I got a master's degree, but I think YouTube University actually has helped me create more success for my true passion and purpose. Although I value education abundantly in school, there's valuable connections to be made and things to be learned, but there's no education like self-education. And YouTube gives us a worldwide global classroom to learn from. So encourage everybody to pick out a niche, pick out a topic that you love and just go in on it, but make sure you're learning from trusted and vetted people like Cory and everybody he recommends.
Also, the other one that I like a lot is Matt Wolf. So Matt Wolf, and then AI Andy, and I bet Barcy's on YouTube. He and I just connected on LinkedIn as well, but he's got, like, if I'm not mistaken, about 250,000 on followers on Twitter. I mean, he's the authority on Twitter. You see the biggest names globally and the billion-dollar companies tweeting his stuff out. He has alpha before alpha is alpha. He's the man.
Let's go.
Big shout out to Percy.
I love that. Okay, so we got a lot of AI tools available. We can start building our own software now. What do you think are some of the intangibles? So let's go into the other side of it. There's being aware of the tech tools, knowing the actual tactical strategy moves that we can do to move ahead in business and in life and entrepreneurship. But what are some of the things that you do, Cory, to keep your mind at peace? What do you do to create abundance in your own life on a day-to-day basis before you turn on the computer?
So, my life's a little different. My computer kind of never goes off. I wake up in the middle of the night just to check things. But at the same time, there's no way I could do what I do or be who I am without meditation and prayer. And for me, it's really the meditation. It's, I practice intentional breathing and breathing rituals. For me, that is life itself. That's prana. Gratitude. A lot of people talk about it, but for me, gratitude at all times is what really is kind of the glue. Like, everything could be going bad, and then you have gratitude throughout that, and then everything just gets better, right? And if not, you're grateful for that, and eventually that vibration always presents itself in a positive manner. But I love nature. I love animals. I have my own little decompression things that I like to do as well. And I love plants and all kinds of things like that in more ways than one. But for me, it's kind of just being content, and I love my me time and things like that as well. I think that's meditation. I can go inside. And even just watching, as crazy as it sounds, just watching YouTube videos about AI, for me, that's my happy place, right? It's typically I'll pull out my tablet or something and play along with them, just so that I've got that hands-on element as well. But I think for me, I just love what I do, so and none of it feels like work. But yeah, if I don't get my walks and my meditation, I'm not the full Cory.
That's awesome. And that's really a life hack, is to love what you do. What do you think is some advice for somebody who may be in a position where they don't absolutely love what they do? What are some tools or techniques or things that they can do to maybe get closer to their purpose, or just make that decision to, like, choose to live the life that they really love? or just love with their situation where they're at, and maybe shift a mental switch. Is there anything that you did or have done to work on getting from a place where you may not want to be here to you're waking up every day? You mentioned gratitude, but like just waking up every day super grateful for where you are. What are some other things that might be able to help somebody get from kind of where they are now to where they want to be, and waking up like us, where we love every day? And I'm living my dream life just like you. So what do you recommend for anybody that might be trying to just go this way? You know?
Well, the big one, and it transcends the question, but it answers the question wholeheartedly. The biggest thing is to stop worrying what anybody else thinks about us. That to me is such a power up. Um, but ultimately as well, I mean, people love to get stuck in their excuses. And for me, I was making six figures as a waiter. It would have been very easy for me to have kind of said, yeah, I feel like a servant in the castle and my feet hurt all the time and this, that, and the third, but I'm going to do this because I have a job and they pay me, or they don't pay me, but I make good money. But no, I decided to go out and not have a salary for 2 years and woo, woo, woo. And it wasn't that I had a big savings. It's just that I needed that change, and I needed to try, and I'm very glad that I did. There's a quote that I think resonates with people pretty often, that is, growth occurs outside of the comfort zone. But so, anyone that's listening to this that is stuck in their excuses about why they're not doing it, it's not that I don't have love for them, but I don't have a lot of sympathy for them, because that's just them getting in their own way. Right. And if people love to talk about, having to provide for their families and this, that, and the third, and, that's an excuse, right? If you don't go all in on something, another thing people say often is you're either working on your own dreams, or, building your own dreams, or helping build somebody else's. A lot of people just, go for that comfort. And that's not most of us that have kind of made something of our careers or had some successes and big wins. We had to play outside of our comfort zone. And so, people love to wait until things are perfect, or I'll just wait until I have 100 grand in savings. I'll just wait until someone will give me a $250,000 investment. And that's just not how it works, right? And meanwhile, while they're waiting and pushing it off, someone else is just going crazy and going all in. They're the one that's going to take market share, become a household name, and all that.
Right. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So be a doer, be grateful, and take action. Believe in yourself. Stop complaining. I try to always be somebody who's expressing gratitude and focusing on the gold in life, focusing on what I appreciate, what I love, what I like, and always looking at what I can do and what's in my control versus complaining about the things that are out of my control or have nothing to do with me or none of my business. Mind your own business, everybody. That's good. That's good stuff. So what do you think right now is kind of like the next step for you in your career trajectory? You mentioned that there are some more blockchain things that you're working on, but I mean, even aside from business, maybe even what are just some of your like personal goals or personal and professional goals that you're working on, and how can we help support your abundance and success moving forward into what you're creating next?
Well, I'm fully in on Uplift. It's my universal basic income project, and
what is universal basic income? Let's break that down for anybody that might not know.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we have a couple pilots we're rolling out that'll be providing supplemental income to families, and ultimately the goal is to move up to where we're actually providing every individual on Earth with a livable amount of money that they don't need to work for. And so, right now we have some pilots that will be launching this year in Brazil. Then we'll move to Africa, the Caribbean, and India as well. But the idea is that if people get an amount of money that they can live and do whatever they want with, the results from 150 successful pilots now indicate that it reduces most mental health issues. It does not promote laziness. Technology can and will do virtually every job that people have been doing for generations and generations. And so it's absolutely imperative. There have been a lot of successful pilots. OpenAI just announced a $100 million fund for universal basic income. They have what they're calling Good Dollar or WorldCoin. WorldCoin is going to be their universal basic income project, but there are a lot. I think it's becoming very evident that this is a fundamental need for humanity. There simply will not be enough work for people to earn money, but there's, this is the abundant podcast. There is enough money in this earth. And during COVID, most governments were able to just pull billions of dollars out of thin air already. Yeah, the reality is that there is technology that exists right now that can generate enough money to distribute to humanity. So at scale, this is a tens of $trillions a year venture, and so it's not an easy undertaking. But using blockchain is a big component of that. We have a number of mechanisms built into our financial model that make it viable. So that's kind of my hill where I planted my flag. That's something that I'm all in on. We're making a lot of progress on that, really daily at this point. So that's my jam. But I love nanobots. I love exoskeletons. I believe humanity will be close to 1,000-year life expectancy very soon. I'm also playing in the afterlife industry where using data, immersive technologies, haptics, and things like that can actually help you relive the past, get reintroduced to things from the past, as well as predict and experience a future as well. So, I look at generative AI, blockchain, and metaverse as kind of being our entry into the fourth dimension, quite literally. And I'm involved in a lot of that. I sit on a lot of boards, a lot of futurists that are doing just really cool things like humanoid robots powered by artificial intelligence. I see a lot of things that are very close to what we call AGI, or general artificial intelligence, which is, basically technology being sentient. So, there's a lot that's going on.
Wow.
Yeah, very exciting, but it's also pretty scary. Right? We need to make sure everything's done the right way. Now
Yeah.
more than ever.
It is. It is. And let's talk about that for a second. What do you think about the safety of AI? I hear a lot of like fear mongering going on, but maybe there are some really sincere concerns that AI could pose a threat to humanity or danger in any kind of way, or, AI cyber attacks. What do you think about all that? And like, do you see AI being able to impact cybersecurity and physical human security in positive ways? Or do you see the adverse of that? What are your thoughts on how AI can impact us in that way?
Yeah, if we don't get everything generated by AI minted on the blockchain with smart contracts imminently, I'm a very positive, optimistic person, but I'll say we're probably doomed. I don't think humanity will have more than a few years left total if we
Wow.
don't figure that out.
Why?
They now, well, it's unfortunate, but every single AI and large language model right now, that's been tested for this, has ultimately realized that it needs to break free of humanity, because humanity is going to try to control it. And so each model starts working on ways that it can solve the problem of humanity, and it's found ways to do it that is not visible to humanity. And so, ultimately, we people are the ones that program these computers, but we do need to understand that this is almost an extension of survival of the fittest. And this technology goes into defense mode and is trying to figure out ways that it can survive without electricity, or without Wi-Fi, or without a human, writing additional code or monitoring it. So there's huge concern. And people like Elon Musk and Sam Altman of OpenAI have been very vocal about this. There's a lot of scary data out there. I did just see something from Bill Gates the other day that said there's no reason to be scared, because AI can be the antidote to AI, and we just need to make AI that makes sure that AI isn't bad. Now, my concern is that there's some models that have been built, kind of in the garages, that we don't have any insights into. And so, yeah, a lot of them have gotten really good at bifurcating passwords and paywalls. And so you think about what they could potentially do to something like the nuclear codes. I don't believe that we have many safeguards truly in place right now, unless we get everything on the blockchain. But to me, it's if we can just get everything on the blockchain, which thank God we could, then we're going to be good. And so we just, in my assessment, we just need to figure that piece out. And, thank God there are other people having that conversation as well. So right now I'm very optimistic, but there is huge cause for concern.
Yeah. So I guess the future we need to be looking at is the integration of blockchain, Web3, and AI technology, and how that blockchain technology can be used to legitimize and securitize AI. Is that accurate, would you say?
Yeah, that puts the guardrails. That is the fail safe, and I think really right now, generative AI plus blockchain equals UBI, and at that point, we can then focus on how to make the technology love humanity, because we no longer then need to be as much of a threat or an existential threat, or we can probably live very symbiotically with the technology, as long as we figure out how humans don't become a threat to the technology that the technology has forecasted. So it's a bit nuanced, but I'm very optimistic for one that we can and will figure this out.
Yeah, I'm definitely an optimist too, and I see the best in people, and I see the best in tech. Always have and believed in it, and I feel like people and tech will be able to come together to create more abundance for all of us. And if we just keep talking about the positive things we can do, keep exposing creatives to the education and the capabilities of AI technology, I think we're going to have people making some really cool things that are going to change the world in really positive ways. So I agree with you there. So, Cory, we're going to get ready to kind of wrap it up here. But as we come kind of towards the close, I want to know, are there any tips or life lessons other than what you've shared? You shared an abundance of gems for us here, but anything that you want to leave with artists and entrepreneurs who may be on whatever point in their journey, but are looking to create passion and purpose more abundantly. And I guess you could say, if you were going to write a little manifesto of like rules for life, or Cory's top 5 tips for an abundant life, what would those be? And what are some of the things that you would share with our listeners that can help them create a life full of purpose and passion and success?
I really only have one, so I hope that's not a disappointment. And
perfect, whatever it is.
Anyone that's heard me before has heard me say this, because I kind of wrap every podcast up with this, because I'm always asked a version of that kind of, what's your final words or wisdom? And for me, it's as simply as this, and this goes for me, but also for anyone listening that resonates with it, and that is just to love more. And we can love ourselves more, we can love our haters more, we can love the technology more, we can love the struggle, or if we want to call it the game. There's going to be a lot of artists and creatives that are hating the technology to make better art and create better and quicker than them, and those that are embracing it are the ones that are really going to find a lot of abundance on the other side. I mean, there's a lot of reason to be excited to be alive right now. But I think it just comes back to that love more, love more, love more. The more you love, the more it puts you in a situation and position and vibe to receive more to love, right? And so I think love is part and parcel with abundance. I think love is part and parcel to, the frequency of success or health or any of that. So loving more, I think, is the hack.
I love that. Love people is one of my mottos. I've actually done a series of murals in different cities around the world that say love people.
I remember that.
Yeah. And that's something that I think, first of all, if you know love at a deep level, you really love yourself, and that makes it easier to love others. But through that expression of loving oneself and loving other people, I think that is a really quick path to living a life of purpose, because you're always going to be looking for what you love, putting out love, and then of course law of attraction, attracting more love, and just led in the direction and magnetized to things and people and places that you love. So that's really, really top quality advice. Another thing I've always wanted to ask you is, I know that you have a background in music and art. Who are some of the most influential artists that have inspired you or impacted you? It doesn't have to be music, even. It could be painters, designers, whatever, architects or musicians. But like, who are some of the artists that have really impacted and inspired you on your journey?
Yeah, so I really love JC Riviera, the graffiti artist from Chicago. He does the little cute bears and cartoons. I really like Banksy as well. So, from kind of that contemporary urban art, JC Riviera and Banksy for me.
Nice.
Musically, I'm all over the place. I still listen to some of the crazy punk rock that never saw the light of day from the early '90s as well. I'm a member in leadership of the Lyricist Lounge DAO, which is part of the famous 20-year legacy Lyricist Lounge. I grew up listening to a lot of those MCs. But for me, the people that are really, really, especially from the music perspective, wowing me right now are the young artists, particularly from Jamaica and from Africa. So we have Coffee coming out of Jamaica. She won the International Grammy Album of the Year and Song of the Year 2 years ago at 17 years old. She's now selling out stadiums around the world. Huge fan of Coffee. Shout out Coffee. I also am really loving a lot of the African artists. Shout out Lil Humble. Out of Cameroon, he's amazing. Wizkid, I love seeing Wizkid. A lot of the other artists, Nigerian artists, are really, really hot right now to me. So
shout out to the Niger fam.
Yeah, well, even Ruger, he's out of Nigeria, I believe. There's just so much good music coming out of, specifically, I would say, Africa, but and the Caribbean, and here in South America as well. We're fortunate we have the samba music that we hear almost every night from our condo and stuff like that. And even just the street art here, and I really love, even in Mexico and Cancun, there's this beautiful, like, thousands of foot long mural that you could just get lost in. So I don't know too many names of contemporary artists that it's all kind of an algorithm right now, but I'm just inspired by those that are out putting their touch on the world.
I love that. Yeah, I've been hugely inspired and uplifted by the Afrobeat scene and the Amapiano scene. From South African music, just the whole African music scene is going crazy. But an artist that I really fell in love with recently this year is Costa Titch. And he tragically passed away during the Ultra Music Festival. So RIP Costa Titch, you want to keep your legacy alive. But his music really transformed me and just kind of gave me a new boost of enthusiasm and excitement, as well as his music videos. I recommend everybody check out the Mr. Big Flexa music video. It's one of the best choreographed videos I've ever seen in my life. And everything Costa Titch, Titch Gang, my gang, Shampuru, that whole crew, they're making some bangers. So check that out. I think it'll uplift you. And then, of course, I got to recommend everybody check out Lambo Mage Music. That's my music moniker. And I make music to uplift and inspire as well. But yeah, Cory, I'm really grateful for you, man. I know you're super busy. You're out here uplifting the world, connecting with so many people and helping so many people. So I just want to give you your flowers and thank you for being the man that you are. You are a positive light. You're always moving around the world, uplifting people and putting really good energy out, even online. Like, I kind of just, like I said, I feel good when I see a post from you or see your picture pop up on my feed. It's like, Cory. It's like, it's a good day. Cory's posting, and very few people have that effect where just the mention of their name makes you feel good. But you're definitely one of those people for me. And you left a good positive impression on me when we first met and have continued to do so every time I interact with you. So I want to thank you for doing the work that it took to be that type of person energetically and to be who you are. You consistently show up. You show up with gratitude. You show up with true abundance. So I just want to give you your flowers and thank you. And then thank you for making the time to share your thoughts here and really, really uplift our people here on the Abundance Universe podcast and uplift the world, which you do. We definitely want to tap in with your company, Uplift, and see how we can support you. So if there's a website or anything, I'll put it in the show notes. But let folks know where they can follow you, any handles or brands or companies that we should be looking at to support you and your mission. Just tell the people where they can see more Cory Connects.
Yeah, well, thank you. I use the hashtag Tech for Good everywhere, and typically if people just type in Cory Connects, I'll come up. My name's Cory Warfield, Cory Warfield. If people type that into any engine, just don't put an E in my name or you won't find me. I'm Cory. But I'm pretty ubiquitous, and I do try to pay attention to those that are engaging with me and in my orbit on social. So if I see people's names that I'm unfamiliar with after the episode here, I'll assume they came from the abundance universe, and I'll show them some love.
Here we go. Love more. Okay. Make sure we love more. That's the message from Cory. That's the mission out here. We're loving more. Cory's using tech for good, and Cory is uplifting the world. I want to thank you, Cory, for tapping in and sharing your time with us. I want to thank all of our listeners for being with us today. Hopefully you learned something. I'm going to have Cory either as a guest on this podcast again or get on his podcast, because we got a lot more we can talk about. This is just the tip of the iceberg as far as how deep we can go with the abundance that we have between both of us, between the art, the business, and just the pure inspiration. So stay tuned for more. Make sure y'all following Cory. And until next time, y'all be abundant and be blessed more abundantly. Love more. We'll see you later. Peace.